Well, I'm in the shop here with T.R. Overeynder. Tom, this is...
Yeah.
Howdy.
Glad to have you here, Austin. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me in here.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, you want to give us a little shop tour, kind of
Sure.
take us around? I guess, where does a knife start in your shop?
Well, probably at this bench right here. Got a drawer here full of templates that are basically a working model that's in aluminum that I proof a design with, and these become the templates that you actually use to lay out the knife on steel. From there it goes to the drill press to drill the holes, the bandsaw to rough it all out, oversize. It goes to the belt grinder to grind a little more off or to size it to whatever final dimension that I want. And from there it's just a matter of refining things. There's some processes I do on the Bridgeport mill. I cut my locks for the for a lock back knife. They're cut on the mill itself. And I use some sign bars that I made to be able to repeat the angles that I want on the lock. And I make every part in the knife. I make my own bushings on the lathe, and I capture those bushings. And you look over here, you can see some that have been pressed into the back strap of the knife right here, and I capture it. And that wants to be parallel with the butt of the knife. That allows the knife to be absolutely parallel when it's assembled.
What kind of steel do you like using these days?
I guess really right now my favorite blade steel is a carpenter steel called XHP. It's a high hardening powdered metal technology steel. It's in the D2 family, and it's stainless. It has enough chromium in it that it's stainless. So,
what kind of hardness do you like to keep on your knives?
well, I run that material up between 60 and 61, and it holds up quite well at that.
Let's say if you had to set up shop all over again. All right, and you got a grinder, and let's say you got a heat treat oven, and say a bandsaw and a drill press. What are the next three things you'd get in a shop?
If you're going to make folders, you're probably going to want a surface grinder. Would be real nice because flat and parallel is important in folding knives. Probably a milling machine, and maybe a pantograph if you want to do sculpted bolsters or inlays. I do a lot of shield inlays with my traditional knives and interframe folders. I do both mineral and mother of pearl and other materials inlaid into the handle. So those things would be necessity. I learned early on, the first knives that I made, I found a heat treater who was out in West Texas, and he turned out not know so much about metallurgy. He decarbed these knives, and they weren't near the hardness that they were supposed to be, 58, 59. They ended up about 53, 54. And so I realized right then I had to have 100% control of all of my processes. And so I started doing my own heat treating. And then I did, at that time, during the earlier years, I did a lot for other people too. And it evolved from there, and so I feel being a handmade knife maker, to have 100% control of your processes is absolutely important.
Okay, well, that kind of gets into the next question I had. So what is your philosophy on making knives? Do you have any sort of ideals or anything that guides you?
Well, making knives in general, and particularly with folding knives, it's a challenging process. There's many moving parts. I say many, there's really not that many, but it seems like a lot when you're working with fine tolerances. Just to try to do the very best you can on any one piece you're working on. Try to make it the masterpiece, and you'll probably never achieve it, but that's the objective.
So have you made a perfect knife?
Never.
How long have you been making knives?
Since 1978, so about 38 years roughly.
Not yet, not a perfect one yet, huh?
Never.
Okay.
Yeah.
What sort of distinctive styles or techniques, what are things that if somebody saw a table full of knives and they knew knife makers, they could pick one of yours out, what would be some of the things that they might see? You mentioned some of the maybe the materials you work with, but
Yeah.
is there anything else that identifies your knives?
Well, I can show you one right here. As a matter of fact, it might be interesting to you. It may exemplify what I do to a large degree with an interframe folder. I'm not responsible for the engraving. That was done by Amyak Stefanon, who's a Russian immigrant that moved to the U.S. about 20 years ago. And it's all hammer and chisel work for him to do that sculpting, and an awful lot of hand polishing. But I'm responsible for the knife 100%, every piece in it. The handle material is black-lip mother pearl, and the blade is Carpenter XHP.
Mm-hmm. That's lovely.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, very nice work. So, is there a favorite type of knife to make? You say you do folders.
I do both traditional and contemporary style, like that dagger. So I'd say really, as far as a favorite knife to make, would probably be an interframe folder and a dagger.
Tell me what an interframe folder is. What does that mean, the term
Well,
interframe?
That knife is nearly an interframe, and if it were a complete interframe, the entire amount of the handle material would be encapsulated in steel. In this case, you could really term that to be a semi-interframe because the material does exit the end of the handle.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Like a frame, like a picture, just an interframe.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, if you were talking to a new and up-and-coming maker, what are some pieces of advice you might give? And perhaps that's a pretty general question, but what are some things to think about when you're looking at making knives?
I would say develop your own style. Don't copy. Copying's been known to be kind of a complimentary thing in some ways, but on the other hand, it's really not complimentary to steal somebody else's design. So buy an old factory knife, knock it apart, and find out how it works, if you want to do folders. And then develop your own designs and build them as good as you can.
Mm-hmm.
So.
How about influences you've had over the years? Of anybody? Do you ever have any mentors or?
Not really any mentors because I'm pretty much self-taught. I got into making custom knives as just an accident, actually. My father-in-law was a tool and die maker at Bell Helicopter, and they knocked apart an old buck Ranger, and I got a pattern of it and made some for Christmas presents that year, and it developed and went from there. So, but early on, I guess, to answer your question more specifically, Harvey McBurnett may have been an influence on me because he came up with the idea of a front lock folder, and I kind of liked that idea, and so I applied that to a number of my designs. But I make front locks, rear locks, slip joints, a few fixed blades, not many.
What kind of fixed blades do you make?
I've made buoys and daggers. I got one in there that I made my wife I could get and show you, as a matter of fact. A nice little dagger and a little miniature folding knife as well.
Is that right?
Yeah, tiny little thing.
I tell you what, why don't you show that to us?
All right.